We cannot go a single day without drama in this league. We are back again just the day after we had the team requirements in order to win week 3. Week 3 is actually also another great week. We got 3 weeks in a bounce that have been kind of like stud weeks, I'm not gonna lie. So we're going to get straight into it, but we've already had the Raiders release D'Angelo Fulford during the making of this video. So the Raiders are currently without a quarterback. Rumor is there's going to be more league releases soon. Not with any particular team that I want to reveal. But there are apparently it's not the end of releases. So if this video is instantly out of date, then you'll know. And I'll leave updates in the comments or something, whatever happens while the editing process and uploading process of this video begins. So, first game, let's get into it. Madrid Bravos 1-0 versus Rhein 2-0. For Madrid, it's very simple. Glenn Tonga needs to be limited. He went for 141 yards and 2 touchdowns in the last game. Absolutely tore up the Frankfurt Galaxy. Madrid do have a good run defense. They have people like Alessandro Fernandez and Hugo Rivero who are going to be able to somewhat stop him. And they're going to need that because he's going to run all over them if they allow him to. He looks like he could be going for a serious season. He looks phenomenal. And I don't know if they have the capability to do it, but they're going to have to try. Drawing in the linebackers, and this kind of is an extension of the Glenn Tonga thing. They need to draw in the linebackers. They do have capable players in the position, but also when it comes to short and intermediate routes that the Rhein Fire like to utilize. You got someone like Luke Lenner who can come into the box as a coverage linebacker, as well as someone like Janelle Pelly, who is a linebacker who is able to cover. Like, those are going to be important players to line up against McKnight and people like Brian Winter, who are able to hurt you short and intermediate. If they don't draw in the players and have quite a heavy box, I think they could get overrun. We know Jadrian has a huge arm. He's going to be able to hit over the top. But it all starts with just killing the momentum short. That's what Madrid have got to do. As well as bringing in linebackers to help deal with Glenn and that overwhelming force that is that run game and offensive line. Tip drill. We saw Jadrian throw an interception. It did come off the hands of the receiver. They're going to need to do more of that. Force the ball out at the catch point. Get DBs around the ball. Get as many players around the ball as possible. Pablo Rey is one of the best nickel players in the league. You got Vera, who is one of the best interception players in the league. He has multiple over his ELF career. Got Jen Hembry, who knows how to get after the ball. They're going to need to be aggressive. They're going to need to get hands on McKnight, hands on Kofi, hands on Brian Winter, and just try and get that ball out, tip it, make a play, cause turnovers. For the Rhein Fire, it's third down importance, and that goes both ways. In their efficiency, they're 3 for 8, which is less than ideal. And then defensively, they allowed 7 out of 13, so a little bit over 50%. The Madrid Bravos, on the other hand, are a team that are very good in third down. 7 out of 10. They only allowed 4 of 13 in their last game against the Dragons. So third down importance is offense and defense. Converting those downs, extending the drives. I do think the Rhein Fire are going to be able to do this. I'm not sure how often we'll see them on third down, to be completely honest, offensively. But defensively, they need to be aware of people like Flores, who are going to be able to make those catch plays. Madden Siestro is another player with reliable hands, and obviously we all know about Willie Patterson. But these players are going to be coming in on these plays and trying to make important catches. And that's what the Rhein Fire need to look out for. Freeze and Helbig. Helbig was excellent in the last game. 24 for 34. 343 yards, 4 touchdowns. Arguably could have been MVP of the week. He was excellent. He's a play-action quarterback. They didn't listen. The Barcelona Dragons didn't listen to my last video about the play-action because he got so open on some of those plays. Helbig's a player that comes off of momentum. He's incredibly good at just hitting consistent balls, building it up, getting hot. They need to freeze that. They need to stop the play-action. They need to get after him. Immediate pressure, penetration on the offensive line, and don't let him get hot because he's a very underrated quarterback. He was good in Vienna, and I think that he wasn't given his flowers. Madrid seems to suit him, and schematically it looks to be a perfect match. And I think that not letting him get a reliable heat check is going to be very important for the Rhein Fire. Dangerous secondary. Again, it's kind of one that goes both ways. I mentioned about Pablo Rey, Jay and Embry. Vera. These are guys that are going to be able to hurt you if you allow them to get the tip drill. In your secondary, you do have some of the best in the league. You got Amari Williams, who's arguably the best safety in the league. You got Darius Nash, who I've been very high on. You've got Tony Anderson, who's one of the best European corners, and he's been great. Use him. They are doing that. It's not as if they aren't. But they haven't caused as many turnovers. They got one pick against Zaradka. Could be more, I think. And I think we'll see more turnovers in this game for the Rhein defense, because that defensive unit is severely underrated, and I do think that's going to be one of the best in the league when it all is said and done. My prediction, I lost the AI ones, so we're not going to see an AI prediction, so I lost the sheet, so we're just going to go for my ones. I'm going to go for 45-14 in favour of the Rhein Fire. I think they're going to try and put a bit of a statement on against, I know they're undefeated, that's only 1-0, but I think they're going to try and put a statement on with a bit of heat that Madrid have been building up, and I think it's going to be quite a one-sided affair. Game 2, the Raiders Tirol versus the Barcelona Dragons. I mentioned in the intro, the Raiders are currently without a quarterback. I do not think that is entirely DeAndre Fulford's fault. He didn't do great. I think that's pretty open. But drops, poor offensive line play, lackluster offensive play calling, an inconsistent run game that never really could get started. I don't think that Fulford is at the forefront of the criticism. He's obviously not there. Whoever they bring in is going to have to come off of a short week's practice, and that's going to be a problem. However, shoring it up, they're going to have to rely on a run game a lot more. The offensive line is going to have to shore up if they're going to want to protect their new quarterback, and drops are going to have to stop. Now. There's a lot of drops. There's been a couple injuries, I understand that. But they have had multiple drops in the first 2 games, and that needs to end quickly. Because they didn't score a touchdown against Vienna. Full flat pass rush. There are hints of their pass rush ability. Absolutely. They do have some good pass rush specialists like Robert Lackman and Bernard Grube. Keep after it. The Barcelona Dragons offensive line is poor. Me and Alfieri and Clay talked about this in the ELF show. Barcelona Dragons offensive line is one of the worst in the league. And if you're sending a consistent pass rush, I don't think they're going to be able to stop it. I really don't. So just getting after it, getting after Levi Lewis. We've seen him not crumble under pressure, but not do as well as we thought he would under pressure. Saw that with the pick in the red zone to Luke Glenna in the last game. Third down woes. This extends massively to the offense. 1 of 12. Third down efficiency. Awful. Strict, just terrible. The defense did a good job, 3-13 against Vienna Vikings in the last game, but offensively it just kind of goes back to the problems that they've had, and I do think they're a bit of a team without an offensive identity at the moment. They are not spreading the ball out enough. Philip Hahn apparently has picked up a bit of a knock, so he wasn't as involved. They aren't using Platzkammer. They aren't using Marco Schneider. It's just all been Schaefen. And Schaefen has dropped a lot of balls. Bonatti had more catches than Weber. The same amount of catches as Hahn. And more than Marco Schneider. I don't understand really what they're doing with this offense. And I think that it lacks a lot. For the Barcelona team, forcing mistakes. The Raiders have made a lot of them. A lot of drops, getting at the catch point, force those mistakes, turnovers, creating those. Fumbles, they lost a fumble, the Raiders, in the last game. They didn't have any interceptions because they just honestly didn't throw enough completions to make it really close. But forcing those mistakes, getting yourself some momentum and coming in and just taking advantage of those. Giving Lewis time. It's imperative that they give Levi Lewis something. They need to give him some attention because they can't just keep letting him run for his life. They can't have intermediate routes. Dondelli can't develop his routes. You can't get people open if you're not giving him enough time. And it's a pretty simple one. Just give Lewis time. Stacking a box and let the rush go after QB. This was originally let them go after Fulford because he has struggled so far. But stacking a box because of their short and intermediate game, they do lack a true deep threat. I think you can put someone like Khaled or someone like Shelton on Schaefen and cause those incompletions. Khaled's got a crazy long frame and Shelton is a good ball hawk. So either one of those I think could take advantage of those drops. Stack the box. Marco, Philip, Splatskammer, they're all short of the intermediate players that like to get rack yardage. Stack it up. Go after the run as well at the same time. Let the rush, let Jai Jackson go after the quarterback. Let Kai Theraman go after the quarterback. Let Irilis go after the quarterback. You know what I mean? Just send, and Bowen as well. Just let them get after him and make plays. I think that's going to be important for them. I do think it's actually going to be closer than some people expect it to be. I'm going to go for a Raiders. You know, I might go for an upset. Originally, I had the Raiders winning 29-14. But now that they've lost a quarterback, I might go for a bit of a shocking one. I might put my heart on my sleeve and just, you know, be a little bit ambitious. I'm going to go for a Barcelona win. I'm going to go for a 17-7. I think that's what I'm going to go for. I think it's going to be a low-scoring one, and fuck it, we ball. The Helvetic Mercenaries and the Milano Seamen. The Mercenaries have also just released Anton Kloman, the Swedish receiver, so they're even going through their own processes at the moment. Big box all times. If Milan, who have just released their offensive coordinator, are going to have to use what they have, it's too late to make signings at the moment, especially for like a whole schematic change. So they're going to have to just use what they have, which is running backs. Helvetic are going to know that. Helvetic have a great linebacker core. Helvetic's defense is really nice, actually. Like they weren't exactly doing justice in the first game, but they do have some serious weapons. You know, John Falk, Burry, Sherman, Hike, Bruin, Kimbembe, Van Ommeren. Like they have, and Hanny as well. Like there are a lot of very talented Swiss players and Americans on that defense. Just big box all times. We know Milan are coming off a week where they were awful offensively. Got a new coordinator. They look like they don't really know what their identity is, and they're going to have to use what they have in a short period of time. So stacking that box. Squeezing the O inside kind of goes to the same thing. They haven't used their receivers at all in an effective manner. Like Flores Calderon is not getting the damn ball. They had only 4 receivers catch a pass in the last game. 2 of those are running backs. Like, squeezing the O inside, just don't let them get those outside routes. They're not going to. They're going to really restrict their offense the way that they're moving just inside of the hashes. And I think they can utilize that. Helvetic are better. Defensively, they have a good unit. They have a good box. And I think squeezing the O inside is really limiting what they can do. It's going to be very effective. Keeping Carlton Aiken safe and hit AFB, Anthony fucking Brown. So, of course, Helvetic are coming off a bye week, so we're going off with their last game, which was Barcelona Dragons. But Aiken went for 104 rushing yards, got 207 passing yards, and of those 207 passing yards, 197 of them were to Anthony fucking Brown. Keep Aiken safe. He took a lot of hits in that run. He had that big long run and he kept clean on that one, but he takes a lot of hits. Get him some outside runs. Conserve him. Hit AFB pretty much whenever you can. I don't think Milan have anyone in the secondary who can deal with him. I love Marquise Manning. I think that he's great, but he isn't following American receivers. And whenever you get AFB around, you can hit him. He's better than all the EDBs or homegrown DBs that Milan can offer. I think that AFB can go for a big yardage. And obviously I promised Jamal Clay that if he gets over 200 yards, I have to constantly call him AFB and put his name in all caps. So that's actually kind of looking pretty likely. For Milan, don't even look at Ken Hike. Like, honestly, don't even look at him. Like, there's no point. Ken Hike is a lockdown corner. Don't look at him. No matter what you do. I mentioned the inefficient passing and honestly just kind of terrible passing game. Like, they haven't got anything. Zach Brownhurst has thrown picks. He's thrown multiple picks. He only got 90 yards and 10 for 24 against the Ravens team. And the Ravens defense is a good unit. But Broghurst throws interceptions. Hike gets interceptions. Don't look at him, ever. Get tricky on the run. Helvetic know what you're going to do. Everyone knows what you're going to do because you haven't really showed much of a passing game yet. You may as well try and do what Roslo have done and use these jet sweeps. I don't know why they haven't really done it, because they've got some speedy receivers. I think that Flores Calderon could take the ball in his hands and make something happen with it. Run a dual back system. Have players come out of the backfield as receivers. Be tricky. This is way too predictable. It's just inside run, inside run, inside run, inside run. Nothing creative. They need to get tricky, especially with a new OC, especially with a short week without much to really go off of in the last game. 7 points in 2 games is not good. That first drive gave him a little bit of confidence, but that's pretty much it. Setting the spy up from the start. Carlton Aiken's going to run early and often. We know that. The offensive line for the Helvetic hasn't been good. We know that. He's going to have to run. So set up a spy. Don't let him get the space. We saw how dangerous he can be in space with that long run against the Dragons. Don't even let him get off for that. Don't even let him get that started. However, I am still going to go for the Helvetic win. I think it's going to be quite comfortable. I think the offense will improve. We do see quite often when offensive coordinators leave, new ones come in, they're a bit more familiar with the team. We do sometimes see an improvement in offense. However, I'm still going to go for a 24-10 victory for the Mercenaries. Frankfurt and Paris, game of the week. Undoubtedly game of the week. This is going to be a fun matchup. I think it's going to be a bit of a shootout. Key to success for Frankfurt is get Edwards out of rhythm. He looked like an MVP candidate. He looked like he can damage you with a run and a pass, which we knew anyway, but this year he just looks different. Cannot let him get in that rhythm. You've got to try and, stifle him somehow. Get an early turnover, force a fumble, get pressure, get him out of sync. Otherwise, he's going to piece them up exactly how he did to Hamburg. He was phenomenal against Hamburg. Went 19 for 28 for 269 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also ran for 2 more, 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. You cannot let him get 6 touchdowns. You're probably going to lose. So just get him out of rhythm. Moving an A to a slot. Now this is a difficult one because I would not consider either Frankfurt's corners to be slot specialists. But you need someone to stop Mitchell. He got 4 touchdowns, over 150 yards, was the MVP of the week. Great player. I was wrong about him. I kind of came in thinking, I was highly rated as someone like Willie Patterson because Tommy Wilson in a Dresden Monarchs team was able to have the same level of production as him. And no, it's no shade on Tommy. It's just, as an American receiver, you're held to a higher standard. And Tommy's only been playing for like 1 year at that point. He proved me wrong. Absolutely. He looked great. I don't think Buckarham or Liggins would be able to cover him in the slot effectively all game, especially with someone like LaRose and with Mahonwu on the outsides. I think you kind of got to have at least one of them. I'm not sure if you put Buckarham or Liggins in, but at least one of them has to move in, at least for a portion of the time, just to show that that's not going to be constantly available. Darren and Nico Lester are good players who can kind of come into that, but can they withstand Mitchell? I'm not so sure. Starting the run game. The run game wasn't really massively there against the Rhein Fire. It showed a little bit. It did show a little bit, but Sandro only went for 44 yards on 13 carries. Markel, Golkari, Santos, Zaradka, Fishback all had a couple, but never really got started. And I think it's important that they utilize that, otherwise their offense will become predictable and they won't be able to move the ball. So starting to run, it's not like a glaring problem. It just wasn't really scaring Rhein. And I don't think it will scare Paris at the moment, so you just need to get that respect back. For Paris, breaking down the linebackers. I mean, we saw how deadly they are with the run. They got Ugman, they've got Denmark, he's playing at running back, which I don't know how you stop that. You got Volumbo, you got Makari. These are all really physical running backs, and linebackers even. Just when they run that up the middle, the linebackers are going to get tired eventually. I do think that the Paris have got a better line units than Frankfurt. I think utilising that, we saw how much damage Glenn did. And we could see that again here, I think. So just breaking them down. Even on the pass. They've got physical big receivers like Mahonwu, like LaRose, who can be a bit more physical with them. You've got people like Sal and Mitchell who could be quicker. Just switch it up on the slot, switch up on the insides, and just really break them down in just a schematic way, and I think that could be the key to success massively. Middle of the field passing kind of ties in again with just moving the people around the slot, Mitchell was incredible. I don't want to go too much on it because he was just that good, but I don't want to be here for 45 minutes just talking about Mitchell. But there are other players like Sal who could be effective in the slot. Kevin Mwamba could come in and affect him in the middle of the field. I don't think they have a quote-unquote pass coverage specialist at Frankfurt in the middle of the field that can cover this level of receiver in terms of like someone like Mahonwu if he comes in, or on like post and stuff like that. I know they've got that ability. And doubling up on Castle is terrifying. Castle is still a phenomenal receiver. He got 120 yards last game. Hasn't skipped a beat. Physical at the catch point. Fast. Strong. Paris do have good defensive backs. Doesn't matter though. Paris is still going to need to double him up. Whether that's putting someone like Marcelo on him, and as Beard is a zonal corner, having him sit underneath routes and having the safety come over the top of his routes, just so he's doubled up and it's hard to squeeze that ball into space and you could cause some turnovers. That's what I want them to do. I don't really want them to man him up because I think that's too dangerous unless you play like a cover one, have him manned up and have the safety help. I think you zone him out of the game. Is that going to, completely remove him? I don't think so. He's that good of a receiver. But it's what I would do if I was Paris. Score-wise, I think Paris do have the edge. I think if you take every positional group, Paris could arguably have the better of all of them. Quarterback, Paris, running back, could argue either way. I think I talked about this yesterday, so I won't harp on it. But I'm going to go for 37-28 in favour of the Musketeers. One of the less talked about games, and you can kind of see why. It's not exactly a barn burner, perhaps. But we've got a Fehérvár Enthroners and a Berlin Thunder. Fehérvár coming in 0-2. Kind of regressed, honestly, from last week, from what we saw against the Vikings. Berlin have been kind of what we thought they would be in kind of the middle of the pack, but they're also making a bit of a splash. But the Enthroners, high volume pass, high volume turnovers, and this is in regards to the Berlin Thunder. Berlin is still a pass heavy team. They threw 44 times in the last game. That is 44 opportunities for Dion to get picks. And of course the other ones, but Dion is the highlight player for that team. There's a lot of opportunities for turnovers with Berlin just because they throw the ball so much. And I think that if they can notch a couple of those, because they have been able to cause turnovers in the past, I think they could do that. They caused an interception on Cologne. They caused an interception on Vienna. We could see a couple more. I think they will pick off Sullivan. But Sullivan threw 2 picks in the last game against Prague, who don't have as many ball hawks as Fehérvár. So I do think he'll throw a pick. Please hold on to the ball. 2 more fumbles that they lost this game. Please hold on to the ball. They're never going to get started if they keep with these fumbles. They've had so many fumbles in the first 2 weeks. It's getting a little bit ridiculous. Just hold on to the ball, please. That's as simple as it is. Please. Need to get people open. Robitaille is doing what he can, but Mangle wasn't exactly effective with the pass in the last game, and I think it's because of lack of schematical flexibility when it comes to receivers. The Toth brothers combined for 9 catches, but not an insane amount of yards. Henry Roland was only got 1 yard. Samuel, their E receiver, only got 1 catch. They need to scheme more than just Roby open. And if they do that and they hit other players that aren't Roby's going to get more looks. They're going to be able to use him a lot more by getting other people open. And I think that's what they need to do, because we saw Cologne just kind of let them try and pass to other people and covered Roby, and they had a lot of success with it. For Berlin, Spillum undercut deep. Deep balls is kind of what Roby is specialised with. You can do it all, but deep ball has been a consistent of that. And a consistent thing also is Spillum gets picks. Spillum is a very, very, very underrated safety. I've talked about it 100 times on this channel and in my articles. Spillum's one of the best safeties in the league and needs to be talked about more. He can undercut that deep route. You can have a corner, play on Roby. They're going to see the man-on-man coverage or the one-on-one coverage. have Spillum, who is a hash-to-hash safety, just come in and undercut, and I think they could cause some turnovers. Even on shorter routes with that slant that he picked off, exactly the same thing. He can undercut a lot of what Fehérvár want to do. Jackson's world, it is just Jackson's world. We're just living in it. He's been excellent to start this season, looking like an all-star level player. 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's also a return specialist. If they don't cover him with Dion, they're going to have a lot of issues. And even then, Bias, who I did a whole video about, he's going to get open. So it's kind of a difficult one. But that's what I mean. When you get other players more open, it gives you more looks for your American receivers. And you've got Robin as well, who's also a phenomenal European receiver. But Jackson is the key. Using the running backs more. I mentioned how pass heavy they were. And I just want to see more runs. You know, Ali Khalifi's got negative yardage in the season. And he was an offensive rookie of the year last year. And they're not using him effectively at all. And he may be banged up. I'm not sure. But for a former offensive rookie of the year to have negative rushing yards 2 games in as a running back, I don't know how that happens, to be honest. And he's a great receiving threat. And he's not seeing the ball out of the backfield. I thought that would be huge. I thought they'd use him everywhere. And they haven't. I want to see them use him more. I want to see them use Albert. Like he got a good couple of runs, but I just want to see a little bit more. They didn't run the ball an awful lot, so just diversify the offense. Don't make it too predictable. Ultimately, I'm going to go for a 34-12 in favor of the Berlin team. I do think they can get it done. I think they can get it done quite comfortably, and I think that ultimately they'll end up with a win. The Vienna Vikings versus the Wrocław Panthers. I promise I'll get a better at that one. But Vienna coming in 2-0. The Panthers 1-1. Both of these teams have been effective, but have shown holes. But this is going to be a really good matchup. Like, I'm very excited for this one. Let's start with Vienna. Clutch downs. They have been good in not allowing the third down percentages. You know, they dominated the Raiders in that regard. But also they struggled in their own ways. They were only 3 for 15 in clutch downs, meaning third and fourth downs. And they weren't really able to get much out of it. That they need to be more effective, especially on the Panthers, who are an effective team on the money downs, defensively and offensively. And more beard bomber, man. Like, he's not been as much in the game as I would want him to be. He is more of like a safety net, I think, for Holmes to hit. And he's not been a receiver that has been used as much as I think he should. Florian is the best tight end in the league. He is one of the best players in the league. And I just want to see more of him. He's a stone cold killer, but only 4 catches in the last game. 27 yards and a touchdown. You want more. It's not Beer Bomber's fault. I'm not sure if it's the schematic thing. I just want more of him. I think that's fair. Don't take your eyes off the backfield. The Panthers' whole thing is the running backs, how good they are. But also with the jet sweeps with Bender, we saw a couple of them in the last game. Don't ever take your eyes off the backfield and that handoff and that point in which it could be a play action, it could be a jet sweep, it could be a read option. Don't take your eyes off the backfield until the very last second, because otherwise it's going to bite you in the ass. We saw that countless times, even with the Surge, and the Surge, I think, have a better defense than Vienna, so that's going to be interesting how they deal with that. For the Panthers, maintaining the defense, they kind of slumped off a lot. Every drive, it seemed they were getting more flags, less disciplined, allowing more yards, allowing more chunk plays, allowing more consistent third down conversions. As the game wore on, it was clear that defense was wearing down. They had a spike in the end of the clutch, but it just wasn't enough. But they just got to maintain that through the whole game this time. Finishing strong. They did defensively, as I mentioned. Offensively, they struggled towards the end of the halves. That big pick to Helvetic. Another pick to Wentzler. A fumble with Bender. That can't happen. If they're finishing that weak, they're going to get points conceded. It's unfortunate. It was unlucky in some cases. But they just need to be able to finish a little bit stronger, and they'll be a little bit more reliable when it comes down to the clutch. Keep the creativity going. They have such a creative offense. I still love it. I still love their offense. I don't want that to get twisted. I'm still a massive Panthers fan. But Duncan threw the ball 42 times the last game. The run game wasn't maybe being effective to use because they maybe felt like they were in a bit of a hole. Genetry and Zozo only combined for 4 catches and 15 yards, with all of that going to Adams. And they only also combined only for 21 carries, which is less than Kandar had in his own. So there was less of that catching from the receivers and also from the running backs, and I would like to see just some of that come back. I am going to go for a bit of a shock one here. I am going to go for the Panthers winning. I've heard about injuries within the Vikings at key positions just through connections of mine. And I'm going to go for the Panthers to win 34-29 in a very close game. I know it's a bit of a hot take, but I'm going to go with it anyway. The last game, Prague Lions versus the Munich Ravens. Kind of a trap game maybe for Munich. I don't think so really, but I've heard some people talk about it. Prague need to commit to the pressure. They're going to struggle if they just let Munich sit back and pick them off. So getting the pressure with people like James Brooks is going to be imperative. It might not work, but they just cannot allow the offensive line to work unimposed. Otherwise, Munich's going to pick them apart. Chad Jeffries is too good just to let them sit and just play how they want to. Like, he went 21 for 33 against the Milano Seamen, but he also did throw a pick, so it's important to note. Short and intermediate defenses. The Munich Ravens are massively short and intermediate so far. They're not throwing as many deep balls as they were last year. Obviously, they're without Castle, so very different offense. John Cole, short and intermediate. They have Nawak, short and intermediate. Ramaru, short and intermediate. Regler, a little bit more of a deep threat, but wasn't as effective in the first 2 games. They need to defend the middle of the field. They need to defend the short and intermediate areas. I think they could have some success. They did turn the ball over a couple times on Berlin, and I think that could be important. Shunk and explosive plays, we didn't see as much of that in the last game, which was disappointing. Phils Jackson didn't get as much of the ball, but Radim Kadius did, and he is a phenomenal player. One of the best European receivers and a homegrown receiver they could have had. And they need to get him the ball. He had 3 catches for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns. Those chunk and explosive plays, Zuleka Marazero, have the capability to go for these long runs. And Munich have showed some weakness to that. Not a lot, but I think we could just see a couple of 20-plus yard gains. You could see them pick up a little bit of momentum. For Munich, inside releases are there for the taking. We saw Prague a little bit lackluster with the inside releases from the receivers. I think that they're there for interceptions. We know that Munich can have ball players. We know that Munich have a good defense with people like Nitzlander, with Flowers. We have the good pass rush and good D-line with Europa, Johannes. Like, they can have and Darius St. Robinson as well, like another ball hawk. Like, they can cause turnovers, I think. I think they will cause multiple turnovers on Prague. And I think inside releases are going to be the main thing. Spill and undercut that big long one. I think we're going to see a similar thing instrumented into Munich. Spreading out the ball a little bit better this week. If just spreading the ball out to other receivers, but still not as much as I, a person on the internet, would like to see. You know, they had Roosh get 6 catches. John Cole got 3. Rady got 3. A couple of other players got 1. So they are definitely spreading the ball out a little bit more. Roosh trying to be that second receiver that he can be. I was critical last week of them not having a second or third receiver. Roosh is capable of being that, and we saw a little bit more of that this week. So just keeping the ball spread out. They're without Tomiwa, which is a big concern. Rodney looks like he stepped up well, and he's been effective, and I like what they do with him. So just keep spreading the ball out, and I think they'll be fine. Don't get too predictable. Prague do have a solid defense. Be aware of the jump balls. Phils Jackson's a jump ball guy. Radim Kalius can come down with it. Be aware of that. I wouldn't say it's a game-breaking thing, but you don't want to give up the chunk and explosive plays. You don't want to give them just the opportunity to score a flurry of points with just 2 plays, 2 jump balls. Be aggressive. Don't be too grabby, though, and don't allow them to get back into the game with these throw down and longs and they throw it up and then they get a flag. Like, that's what I can see potentially from film them doing, of just having that problem. But overall, I'm still going to go for a comfortable Munich win. I think 43-19. I think we'll see a couple turnovers. This week, there are a lot more dominant games. I think this is going to be another one of them. So that's the week. It's a good week. It's a very good week. This video was long because I kind of rambled on a little bit, but this was a fun one. I think we'll see a little bit more blowouts than we did last week, to be honest, but a couple of really interesting games. The Vienna and Panthers game is incredibly interesting. Frankfurt and Paris meeting up again. I'm still favouring Paris, obviously, but that could bite me in the ass. But yeah, the support, as always, incredible. Bunch of views on all the stuff I'm doing. ELF gave me access to the photo library. I put on my thing 17,000. Here's 177,000. So I'll never struggle for an ELF thumbnail again. So that's going to go up. So thank you for the league for that. That is very much appreciated. So that is great. And I'll leave all the photographer credit. I always do leave the photographer credit down below. But please do support these guys, because without the photographers of the game, then we wouldn't be able to do really very much of this. So yeah, it's going to be a good week. Plan wise, my thinking, still got a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that I'm working on that I can't reveal, for obvious reasons, but wanted to get this one nice and quickly in so I can have the week to make maybe a player evaluation or something that I'm just kind of interested in doing, and keeping the weekly stuff up with it. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you're still here this late, thank you. The comments have been going up, the likes have been going up, like everything has been getting better, and honestly I can't appreciate and can't express myself how proud I am of everyone who's just supported me. So thank you. Don't want to get too soppy, but yeah, thank you. See you later. Goodbye.